안녕하세요. 저는 Roki입니다, and welcome back to today's video, guys. Today we are going to be learning some more Korean, and today we have got the second and last part of mastering and getting down Hangeul with Korean consonants. All right, so I'm excited. It's going to be good fun. Obviously, I'm here again with the lovely community, so say hi to YouTube, Patreon, all that jazz for those of you guys in chat. But yeah, I hope that vowels were relatively straightforward to understand. Of course, if anyone has any leftover questions or anything that they'd like to ask in this video, then definitely let me know. There are fewer Korean consonants though, so that's good news, good news. There was a lot of vowels, a lot of things to kind of get down, but I think now, you should definitely stop by the way. I think now, if you've been able to kind of get vowels down and understand the sounds that they make and everything, we can move on to essentially what is going to give us the full range of motion, I guess you can say, in terms of Korean sounds and how we can make and create words. All right, so there are a couple things that we're going to go through. We've got consonants and we've got what are called double consonants. All right, I'll explain that difference in time. Again, today we'll be going through pronunciation and just recognition of these sounds and what sounds they make. There are technically, whilst it's helpful to think with English equivalents for those of you that are native English speakers, please remember that these are the sounds that they make, that these characters make in Korean, and not to focus too much on what English letter they could correspond to, because some of these characters don't actually correspond to a letter at all. They might correspond to two or kind of a midway between, all right? And the first one is guilty of doing exactly this, all right? The first character that we're going to learn is the sound g. G. So the way this is pronounced is g. Right? Think about just kind of like drawing a box, but you only draw the top and the right-hand side. It doesn't have to be slanted completely. You can draw it literally just like this, like a kind of a backwards right angle, like that. But that is k. Now, the best way to explain this, and the way that I see this explained sometimes, is G or K, like somewhere between a G or a K. In English, though, we pronounce G like G, right? G. It's strong. So you say, I go. I am going, right? G. In Korean, though, it's softer, which is why there's kind of this confusion about it being kind of between a G and a K. So, G, soften it a little bit. G, 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 G. So you're just kind of letting the air escape your throat. G. Don't be afraid to practice along at home as well too. So start in G, end with K kind of. The best way to think about it is it's a soft G, right? It's not a plosive one. It's not a G. It's soft. K, K. So you would say, 가요, 가요, not 가요. 가요 means to go, right? 가요. We learnt yo, the vowel. We learnt a, the vowel as well too. So 가요, 가요. It sounds like 가요, but notice how it's not 가요. It's not 가요, it's not 가요, it's 가요. I know that sounds like it's not 1, it's not 2, but it's 1.5. I know it sounds confusing, but it's in between Guile and Kyle, kind of, right? It's just a soft G. Okay? K. 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 Awesome. Now, similar to this, right? So you've got the top and then the left. Sorry, not the top and the left. You got the top and the right of this box filled out. the next sound that we're going to do is literally the other side. So, you complete them. I mean, if this was to overlap, if you superimpose them, you have a full square, right? This is the sound n, n, like an N. No. No. Nabi. Nabi is not Japanese. Nabi is Korean for butterfly. Nabi. Nabi. For anyone who is a fan of VVZ, Nabi is the fandom name. Yep, Nabi. So this makes the sound n, n, which of course in English the equivalent would be, oh, it's N. We're already making our way through, which is cool, right? Okay, another one that is guilty of the kind of halfway in between sound thing. This one. So it's a box, but there's no right hand side. It's left open. This is t. T. Kind of like a D, but a soft D. Not d, it's t. T. Kind of sounds a little bit like a T to some people as well. But again, it's not. It's a soft D. T. T. So a common Korean name is Toyoung. Not Toyoung. Toyoung. Not Toyoung. Not Doyoung. But Toyoung. I know this sounds crazy, bro. I'm sure people are like, what are you talking about? Obviously, you make it sound so natural, but my tongue does not want to work like that. Well, this is why we practice, With pronunciation, practice is everything. Of course, you're not going to get it the first time because in English, for example, if you come from an English native speaking background, you're like, well, it's D, 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 but T. Kind of one way to think about it is you're kind of like spitting the character out, like T, T, T. Spitting probably is more like T, T, but it's like T, T. It's softly escaping. You're not using too much of your mouth or your energy to be able to pronounce this. It's not D, but T. Like let your tongue should touch kind of the very edge of the roof of your mouth at the front and gently roll off it. T. T. Not like a big spit, but a soft spit. Right. T. Notice where your tongue is. Like when you feel D. 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 Down. Down. Or town. Town. The position is a little different and the force that you put behind it is a little different. Lessen that. Like do it a little softer. T. Tari. Tari appa. Tari means leg. Tari appa. Tari. Not dari, but tari. Not tari or dari, but tari. Making sense? Cool. Hopefully it is. All right. Another one. Another one that is that is a little guilty of this. Has anyone seen this character before? Maybe we have. It's kind of like a little snake. That's the way I think about it, or the way I thought about it. It's a little snake. Some say this is halfway between R and L. But, I mean, I guess that's an accurate way to think about it conceptually. But as far as it's pronounced both ways. It really depends on where it is placed in a word, right? Dear. So, for example, my name is Lachlan, right? I go by Lockie because that's my name, like that's my nickname, right? And at the start of this video, I said 안녕하세요. 저는 로키입니다. 로키. It's kind of rolled. If a word starts with this character, the R is kind of rolled, but not fully rolled. It's a bit, I want to say similar to Spanish, the way that you would kind of pronounce this, but with vowels you would say it like da, di, do, de, do. Da, di, do, de, do. With vowels. Da, 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 right? But my full name, so Roki is written like this. You can write Roki like this. Roki. And it looks like that. That's how you could Romanize it. Roki. But my full name, my actual name is Daklan. Daklan. Notice how there's an L in there in the middle. Daklan. 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 It sounds a little different and it's written differently. So for example, that's my full name on the bottom. You'd say it like Daklan. This, so these two ears, this one here, whoop, sorry, directions messing me up. These two, because they're in the middle of the word and towards the end of it, anything that is not at the beginning, you pronounce this kind of like an L, right? Daklan. Hopefully that makes sense. But at the start, it's not really like an L. I wouldn't say Laklan. It is Daklan. Daklan. Kind of makes sense? Hopefully that does. If it's just another way to think about it as well is, where am I putting this? If it's just this with a vowel underneath it or next to it, so like say if you have da, di, do, 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 notice how they don't make the L sound but kind of the R sound? This is just what you need to memorize and get down. These are kind of the rules for it. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Any questions at any time, please let me know. Because this can be a little difficult. Somehow this has made the most sense to me so far. I'm glad. I'm glad. All right. All right. Next. Oh, God. Next. Finally, the cube is complete. M. 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 Masha. Masha means to drink. Masha. M. M. So this is making the sound of M. 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 This is M. If you were to try and find an English correlation for it. M. We did it. We did indeed. Excellent. M, pretty straightforward. I feel like these are just a matter of, okay, the difference is really obvious. You know how I said for anyone who watched the video on vowels, you know how we went over those things a lot and I was focusing on the sticks and we were talking about how to differentiate them, it was because there were a lot more variables and things that looked similar to each other with the vowels. You know what I mean? So a lot of the vowels look kind of similar to each other. It is Jedi. Perfect. Good job, man. Mamamu. Exactly. So there's a lot of similarities with the vowels, whereas, say, the difference between this and this, it's kind of night and day. you know, you know, you can definitely see like, oh, okay, this is obviously different to this. These are not the same thing. Whereas like, oh and ya could trip people up because you've got one stick and then two sticks, and maybe they might not see that, you know, or ooh and or, maybe people would be like, oh. So, yeah, these are a lot easier to get through. For those of you that were at the vowels stream or the vowels video, are we finding this a little easier to distinguish these things from each other so far, though? Hopefully. Awesome. I memorized O versus U as O sup and U down. Nice. Very nice. Yeah, O sup, U down. I love that. All right, next is, again, guilty of that similar pronunciation kind of thing. P. P. Kind of a B and a P. It's a B but softer. P. P. I'll say it again. P. P. So, what's a word? Papa. Papa. Or pup. 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 Pup is rice. Or dinner. Or food, actually. So one thing you'll ask, it's one thing that you can ask, but you'll also see people in Korea ask a lot, is 밥 먹었어요? 밥 먹었어요? That means, have you eaten? Have you eaten dinner, lunch? I mean, of course, there's words for lunch, dinner, etc. But 밥 먹었어요 is quite literally, have you eaten? But again, it's not p, it's not b, it's p. 밥 먹었어요? 밥 먹었어요? 밥 먹었어요? 밥 먹었어요? Does that kind of make sense? Can we hear it? Can you guys hear it? There's another example that I gave just when I flashed this card, and that was papa. Papa. Do you think I just want to hear whether or not you're able to distinguish this. Do you think this is papa? Do you think this is papa? Or do you think this is papa? Like, does this read papa? Just pay attention to the sound. Papa. 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 Does this read like that? Or does this read like papa? Papa. 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 Which one? Papa. I initially think the second one. So this, the way you would read this is papa. Yeah, papa. Because papa, you can tell the second ba it's plosive, right? It's stronger. Ba. Papa. So it's like papa. Papa. 바빠. 바빠. 나 바빠. 난 바쁘다. I'm busy. That's what 바빠 means. I'm busy. Right? Has anyone actually heard 빨리? 빨리. 빨리 해줘. Anyone heard that? All the time, right? Let me give you another example. All right. Does this read 빨리? Or does this read 빨리? 빨리 or 빨리? 빨리 or 빨리? Which one do we reckon? Just trying not to hold the paper too close so that you can still see it. First way. Cool. So you're being able to kind of like see how this is all working, right? Indeed, the double consonant, we'll get to that. I just want to kind of differentiate because originally it's a soft B. It's not a B. It's P. P. All right? Cool. One way that you can say shoes, for example, 신발. 신발. Not 신발, 신발. 신발. You know? Honestly, if you kind of get confused or anything, you can say like with this one, I think especially, it's important to, of course, get the pronunciation as close as possible as you can. Mind you, as well, at the start of anything, when you're first learning a language, especially if you're learning sounds and all of that type of stuff, the best way is going to be to listen to other people say words, you know, and other people speaking in Korean so that you can understand kind of how they change with the flow of conversation. You know, not everything is necessarily like a rule that is stuck to, because a lot of rules are also broken. You know what I mean? Shmappy said just before, pabo. Pabo. Pabo is written like this. The bottom one, let me just mark that. Pabo is written like that. But you'll notice that it sounds like I'm saying pabo, right? Like with a P. And it's kind of true, because the way you say this word is pabo. But it's not a hard B. It's not babo. It's not pabo or bapo, but it's pabo. It's soft, nonetheless. So whether it sounds like a B or a P, just make sure that it's soft and that it's not super plosive. Does that make sense? Making sense? Cool? Cool, good. Hang on a sec. Okay. This one is this one's pretty straightforward. This is sh. It's a couple of different things actually, but this is S. S sh when it's combined with certain vowels. But this makes the sound s, sh, and also I'll explain. But yeah, so s, sh, and t. Okay. What? Yeah, this one's a little this one's interesting. It's pretty straightforward though, because when you see like when you see when you see how it's used, it's like there's only certain times that it appears as t and t or t, and other times that it appears as sh and s, you know? So we'll get to that. So for example, um, um, okay. I've been watching Boruto recently, which is an anime, right? And one of the names is actually no. Let me scratch that. Let me just give something that's really easy. Anyone know the actress Chae Subin? Thankfully, this uses three consonants that we've been able to learn so far. Cool. This is how you would write Subin's name. So, Su-pin, 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 Subin, Subin, Subin. Not Subin, but Subin. Subin, right? S. S. So here it's a S. When you have other vowels like sa, su, so, it's just like it's when you have like a vowel with one stick. So like sa, su, so, so, yeah, sure, this is a good enough example. I don't need to overwhelm you guys. Or like s, when you have sa, su, so, so, those things, it's s. But the only times that it becomes sh is when you have the vowel e, because I mean, c could work, but c is, it's just not what they say. They say she, right? So say, for example, exactly like xian, right? Or xion. So she, sha, sha, sho, shu. Notice how here it's just s, just sa, su, so, so. But here, the main thing to focus on is two sticks. Like when you see the vowels with two sticks, it becomes an sh. Sha, sha, sho, shu. You could say xia, xia, sio, siu, but that doesn't sound very easy, does it? It's mainly just for it's far easier to pronounce sha, sha, sho, shu instead of xia, xio, sio, su or something like that. So that's why Korean has that. The main exception is just this one, xi. Xi. And you just explained to me why Xion's name is pronounced like it is. Exactly. It's not, because you'll see Xion, right? The name Xion. Again, this is why Romanizations, you don't trust them. You'll say Xion written a lot like this in English. And you're like, oh, Sion. Sion. Yes, Sion. No, Xion. Making sense? Oh, actually, one other thing, but we'll 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 get to this. Exactly. We'll get to this. Um here's a good example. In Korean, there's a lot of different ways to say like, oh my God, or express surprise. But some people literally write like, oh my God, right? So you could write it like this. What you'll see a lot is this character at the very end, right? This says, oh my God. You can't say, oh my gus, or oh my God, like, or oh my, yeah, just gas, oh my gas. Because the consonant, it needs to make a sound on its own, right? So you've got oh my e cut. A cut actually is hopefully this makes sense. It's one of those. Anyone seen K-pop demon hunters like the Saja boys and stuff? What they're wearing is called a cut. This. It's a traditional Korean headdress. You know the pointy black hat? Not pointy, but you know, like the kind of tall top hat. It's called a cut. Not me instantly knowing what you drew. Excellent. But hopefully that makes sense. I know I keep saying hopefully that makes sense, but hopefully we're all making sense still. Okay? So this again, just because I think it's relevant to go through it, this again makes s, sh, and t, right? S, sh, t. That's this sound. There. Excellent. All right. This one, for those of you who are familiar with the vowels already, you'll be very familiar with this one. But this is where hopefully the vowels and stuff are going to make a little bit more sense. Ian. We've seen this one a lot, right? You remember the placeholder? You remember the little placeholder thingy, the little circle that appears before or on top of every single vowel? Yep. This makes the sound ng, 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 ng. The bane of my existence. ng, ng. Right? So going, walking, eating, talking, that ng. Right? Now, again, when we're talking about vowels, just to go back on this really quickly. When we're talking about vowels, right? A, I, U, E, O. With the ing, right? What can you notice? What pattern is common here? Look mainly at where they're placed. Yep. So notice how these two are at the beginning, so they're on the left. The third and the fifth are on the top. Right? This placement is always on the left or above. If you see this little circle to the left of a sound or above it, it is indicating that that is a vowel. Right? But if you see, because you will see this is just to demonstrate, these are not necessarily real words. If you see a circle ever below, right? Because this is where you'll see it. Then it makes the sound ng. So instead of a, I, u, e, o, you have ang, ing, ung, eng, ong. Ang. Okay? Ball and Palace, right? Go ahead and tell me if you can. It's okay even if you write it out in romanization, but I want to see if you guys can get this. For example, this bottom word, how do you think you would spell that or sound it out? Even sound it out to yourself. Just to yourself. You don't necessarily have to type anything. Close, schmappy, but not quite. Yep. Kang. Remember, not kang, not gang, but soft G, kang. Kang. Right? Kang means river. River. Kang. Or you can go ahead and you can talk about a place. Gangwon-do. It's a place in Korea, an area of Korea. Gangwon-do. Gangwon-do. Good pull. Car helps. There you go. See, this is the thing as well too, right? Like, you guys will exactly same combo used for Gangnam as well. Exactly. Yep. That is how you'll see Gangnam spelled. So Gangnam. That's Gangnam. Yep. Good one, Schmappy. Cool. So notice though how in both of these, yeah, sure. So both of these, you can see this ing, it's at the bottom. But then this one here up the top, it can't make the ing sound. It can't be kang do, because this, like, so say, sorry, I'm just trying to find a way to present this properly. If you get rid of the N sound down here, you can see obviously, because we've learned this, that means what, right? So, Gangwon-do. This up here can't possibly be NG because it's on the top. It's on the top or it's to the left. If it's on the top or it's to the left of the character, it's a vowel. It's just signaling that it's a vowel. It's signaling that it makes the a, I, u, e, o, or wa, or we, or yo, or something like that. But if it's down here, it's always ng. Cool. Got it? You'll actually see... this is really, really common. Bet. You'll actually see this a lot. Kind of looks like a little division sign. Does anyone know what this says? Anyone want to spell it out? Perfect, fully. And Wi-Fi. Yep. Right? Because on the top, you've got and then here is something that's used to signal agreement. Are you going today? Is this preceding O to indicate vowel thing needed just because of the consonant, like the H consonant? I think it's more so just because that's just to represent that it's like a standalone vowel. if that makes sense. Like, I'm just trying to think of the best way to explain it. I wouldn't say so, no. I don't know if there's like an official reason as to why that is like that. Because it's rather just like in Korean, and we'll get to this. In Korean, every like syllable is broken up into blocks. That's kind of like the scientific way to think about it. Like, you know, people talk about Korean being like a science, but it's like it has to be represented by something, if that makes sense. Like reading, reading 안녕하세요. Reading 안녕하세요 like that, it just looks disjointed. You know? Because if we split these up into kind of quadrants, not necessarily quadrants, but these spaces aren't filled. You know? We'll get to this. I just don't want to confuse anyone too much right now. Sure. That's one way to think about it. But each Korean like character, each Korean syllable can only ever have as few as 2 characters and only as many as 4. Again, we'll get to that. I'll explain what I mean. But basically, it has to be a placeholder so you know exactly what that is. Because, say, okay, here's a good way of giving this to you. What's the main difference between all of these? I think this is a much better explanation that I can think of. What's the main difference between all of these? Doesn't matter if the answer is super obvious. The super obvious is what I'm looking for. The consonants, right? Yeah, that obvious. The main difference, and it's not a trick question, is the consonants, right? So the consonant being in front of the stick simply symbolizes that there is an extra sound preceding that A. So this is like a syllabic pair. Ma. And A go together. And A go together. S and A go together. So it's sa. And na go together. So it's na. This, though, symbolizes just that this sound is just A. Only A and nothing else. A. Right? That's all that is there to symbolize. That is just A, or it's just E, or that it's just U. Because it's a placeholder so that consonants can fill that space. Does that kind of make sense? But like, I guess I can read the A by itself without the help of something else. I get that's the way it is. I'm just curious as to why it was developed that way initially. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, man. Nah, honestly. I think it's for consistency though, yeah. It's so that the flow of reading is easier. Sana, yeah, perfect. That's sana. That's how you would spell sana. Yep. Exactly. See, look at you go, man. Look at you go, bro. Getting it already. When you type, all consonants are on the left hand and vowels are on the right. Exactly. So basically, all syllables need to start with a consonant. Yeah, that's also similar to what you were saying earlier as well, Fully. So all syllables need to start with a consonant, even if it is that little placeholder, iung, because though it's a placeholder, it's still a consonant. It's just that instead of reading it as ng or iung, you simply just read it as nothing and read the vowel on its own. Hopefully that makes sense. Why? I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea, man. But I'm sure there's an explanation for it. Great question, though, man. But yeah, we'll get to the whole explanation of how to write the syllabic blocks and all of that type of stuff because, yeah. But say in the example that Josh gave just before, are you going to cover why this letter is the bane of my existence? Gemini, go ahead and say it if you'd like to, man. Go ahead. I wouldn't be surprised if it was to help with reading flow to some degree, but also the H at the start would be ambiguous without it. True. Or is that more advanced? I'm probably thinking in the beginner mindset at the moment, but if you want to say, man, go ahead. Let's go back in time and ask Sejong Dewang. What I was going to say earlier is, so we saw Sana. Josh wrote Sana, right? How many characters are in each block just there? Because obviously these make two different sounds, right? Sa, na. How many characters are in each block just there? Two. Exactly. Two. This we'll get to. Oh yeah, you're talking about Bachim, man. Oh, Bachim we'll get to. I think it's just important to learn visually recognizing it first, and then Bachim when we can like make words and stuff more. We can get the Bachim. For those of you guys that don't know, Korean has what's called Bachim, which is kind of like silent letters in English. You know? Oh, is it night or is it night? Which one do you mean? Context. Gonna help us a lot, you know? No! Makes sense. Right. How about now? Just out of curiosity. I have no doubt that if you're at least somewhat familiar with Korean, you'll have seen this. People will be like, what the fuck? What is that? How many do you think there are per block now? Three and two. Yep. This, we'll get to it, is what's known as a double consonant. It's a double consonant because you literally just see the consonant repeated. Exactly, because it's connected. Yep. It's its own character. Double consonants, even though they are double, just indicate that the sound is stronger. It's still just one character by itself. Oh God, what's a... Okay, another one just because we've used this. How many characters are there in this one? Correct, right? But do you think Do you think I can write it like that? Illegal. Exactly. No, I can't. Because there's maximum only ever 4 characters per block. But I can't also have something. I can't also have this just on its own. You know, because that's. How many characters is that? The little stick. Don't worry about the at the top. It's just one, right? So every single Korean syllabic block has to have at least 2 and max 4, but they can also have anywhere in between, which is 3. Okay? Does anyone know, just quickly so that we can review, does anyone know what that middle, this one? Whoop. Wouldn't be a lesson if I was not dropping shit. Does anyone know, where am I? Where's the camera? Does anyone know what that says? Anyone know how to spell that? Exactly, Georgina. So at least 2 or nothing more than 4. An. As in An Yujin. Yep. An Yujin. An is a common family name. And many other things. It's also how you would write the beginning of 안녕하세요. 안녕하세요. An as well too, inside, yep. Although inside is more ane, but yeah, facts. Exactly, Jen. All right. So, Ian, we confident with this now? We know kind of how to use this and where to use it, when not to use it, etc., etc.? Yep. Cool. Hopefully that explanation and all of that, the roundabout, was simple to understand. I think it's necessary to always just kind of provide more explanation rather than less. I know, no, not at all, man. I think explaining and exploring stuff is better than simply just being like, oh, just learn it, memorize it. Sure, but, you know, you'll have questions when it comes up. All right. Two more kind of two kind of terrible characters that also have the ability to kind of mimic each other sound-wise. I'm sure we've seen this one before. A very, very famous K-pop artist, for those of us who are into K-pop, his name starts with this. This is J. J. It's J, but a softer J. J. I mean, you could go ahead and be like, oh, so it's like K. K. No. J. J. Jimin. Jiyeon. Jisung. J. J. Okay. J. This is kind of between a J and a CH. So between J and Ch. Jenny Po. Yep. Jenny. Jenny. Blackpink Jenny. Okay, go ahead. See if you can write Blackpink's Jenny. How would you write Jenny? Or if we want to go for some easier ones, how would you write Genie? There you go, Schmappy. Yep. what Schmapple said. Right. You've also then got another word that you'll hear a lot. Let me just write that down. So you got Jenny, Jenny, Chini, Chayo. Well, your name, Josh, would be Joshi. Joshi. Not Joshi, Joshi. Yeah, Jedi. Jedi, yours would probably be. You could spell it whatever way you wanted to, but yours would be more like that. Jedi. Jedi. Knew the chuckle was coming. No, it's just because chot is also a swear word. Like if you say chokka, chokka means fuck off. Chokka means fuck off, and chot also means male parts. You know? But, hey. Fantastic. You know, it's not necessarily always spelled that way. This chat is so small, so I can't really see if it was the one that I was thinking of. But, yeah, it just reminded me of that. So I'd laugh. If it would have the D in the second syllable or not. Yeah, I mean, you can use it there if you want to. But yeah, you can write it kind of however you want. But Jedi, if there's no need for the consonant to be under that, then it's you can just carry over. Jedi makes sense to just write it all in the 3 syllables. So then you've got chayo. Chayo means sleep, to sleep. And can anyone read the last one? Yeah, 잘자. 잘자 means sleep well. Good night. Oh, 잘자. 잘자. Or 잘자요. 잘 자세요. Cool. So that kind of makes sense. Hopefully. This one's a lot more straightforward. You'll notice that it's... So this one is literally... It just has a little stroke on top of it. You may see it written a little differently, depending on the font. So you may see it like this. You may see them both written like this. It's the same thing. It just depends on... Sometimes online you'll see different fonts and different people handwrite them differently. But this is ch, like a hard ch. 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 As in like chicken. Ch. I mean, actually, it's literally how you spell chicken in Korean. They'll say chicken, 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 chicken. Yep, Chewon. Yep, exactly. Cool. Another hard sound, not difficult, but hard in terms of its differentiation, is this. It looks like an E. I know it looks like the letter E, but this is the sound T. 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 Tower. Tower, as in tower. Tower. Or you will have tayo. Tayo means get on or to ride a bus, ride a vehicle. So 버스 탔어. 난 버스 탔어. Or 난 버스 타고 왔어요. I came by bus. So you can hopefully hear, you don't need to learn these words yet, but hopefully you can hear it's a t. It's not t. It's not t. It's t. Very strong T. That's kind of more like you spitting it out, T. All right. This is what Jedi was talking about a little earlier. This is also quite easy. This is h. H. Hi. Hi. Ha ha ha. As in that. H. H. What's good, Ma? How are you? H. All right. You'll see this one a lot, actually. And sometimes you will actually just see who has ever been in a comment section or seen people commenting in Korean and seen something like this. Has anyone ever seen comments like this? 이거 너무 재밌어. 흐흐흐. So there are times where you'll see this used in language when people write, like, on the internet and stuff like that. And this literally just means ha 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 or he. Because literally when you say like it mimics laughing. Okay? You can see kikiki as well. Yep. A lot. But that is cool. You would have words like oh, here's a good one. See if you guys can read this. Oh, hang on. Not showing up very well. Can you guys read this? It's a good way to put the eating into practice. Kim Tae-hyung. Hyung. Right? Does anyone know what hyung means? 제 형이랑 점심 먹었어. That's me. I do not. Hyung is older brother. Older brother. 형님. 형. 로키 형. Joshi 형. I mean, Josh, you don't know the vowels yet, bro, so it's fine. You even guessing is great. I love that. Keep guessing and keep participating, man, because to be curious, like what's really important is that you got to, be curious, man. So I love that. And here's the thing exactly. Gemini, I took the words out of my mouth. Older brother from a male identifying person, right? So if you were a male identifying person and you are talking about your older brother, you would call them 형. 형. 내 형이 왔어. My older brother came. Or my older brother's here. 아, 형이다. It's my older brother. Right? But then you've also got okay. This is a random one. But let me know in the comments, in chat, what's your blood type? Just let me know your personal blood type. If you want. I mean, maybe this is important to you, maybe it's not, but I can write it down. Don't even know. Cool. All right. This also means your blood type too. You have O Hyung, A Hyung, B Hyung, B plus Hyung. You know, so this is like older brother from a male identifying person, but you'll also see this when people talk about their blood type as well too. 난 Ohyung이다. I'm O. Right? So you see that. Cool. Make sense? Oh, we got a universal donor over here. Right. Learn something new. Bet. Love that, Jen. And then the last of the simple consonants, or the single consonants, is k. This is a pretty sharp K. It's not a k, it's k. 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 All right? So, K-pop group, you have Kiki. Everyone knows Kiki, I'm sure, in this chat. That's how they spell their name in Korean. Do you know this is literally just hee hee? That's what this is. That's what Kiki means. Hee hee, Kiki. Isn't that cute? Makes sense with their vibe, right? You'll see this in a lot of different ways. And now I love them more, right? Some things that you might see in comments are like, 너무 웃겨. Ha 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 ha. This is so funny. Right? This is so funny. So you'll see the K's and the H's often used a lot just to symbolize laughing. There's no, like, you don't have to overthink which one to use. I think there is a bit of a nuance though. This is more just like laughter, right? This is kind of a little cuter. Hopefully that makes sense. The hee 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 hee. It's kind of cuter, you know? You can use whichever one you want. It's going to denote exactly the same thing. But this is just more like ha 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 ha, hee 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 hee. Hopefully that makes sense. Not gonna lie, the fact there is a little person makes my brain happy, right? This, 웃겨? Hey man, memorize it in whatever way works. But now it's gonna get a little hard. All right, let me bring these out. They're corresponding things. Thankfully, we don't actually have that long to go. Also, I've just remembered there was one that I forgot to write. So give me a second. Give you a second. Yeah, we need a whiteboard, bro. Desperately. Because it's got a little hat, right? Actually, all right. Last single character is this. P. P. You remember how this kind of sounds like P, but it's like a soft B, so it's like P, P, P. This is literally P. Um, can anyone tell me? You don't have to tell me what this means, but how would you spell that? Yep. Pranks. Pranks. Does anyone want to have a guess at what pranks means? Pranks. France. Exactly. It sounds like France anyway as well. Or France. Sorry, however you want to pronounce it. But pranks. All right. There's also a very, very common ingredient that's worth knowing because maybe you use this a lot to cook at home. Pa. Pa. Does anyone use spring onions to cook or eat things with spring onions in them? If you eat Korean food, it's likely got spring onions. Pa. 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 Cool. Whoa. Loud, sorry. Oh, y'all be cooking dinner in about 10 minutes with some? Nice, man. So you can look at them and you can say pa. Young pa, that's like onion. Specifically. Oh, excuse me, my back. Hopefully you all didn't hear that. Okay. One last little thing that I kind of want to talk about, just so that I can get this across, right? Because I don't think on the fly that I was doing a very good job of explaining it. I do think that, you know, it just kind of depends, but I'll give you some examples so hopefully you guys can see. I'm just trying to think of a word, eh? Okay. Just give me a second. How are we going, by the way, guys? Are we okay? Are we finding this pretty understandable, pretty easy to follow? Anyone confused? Anyone have any questions? Why does France use ing in the second character? Interesting question, man. I often wondered this as well. Like, why not pranse? Pranse probably makes it's probably a lot more accurate. But pranse, that's just how they chose to migrate France into Korean, you know? Yeah. It's really interesting the way that they do certain things. Like Gemini just said, it's almost always going to try and be as close to the way that natives would say that word, though. You know? I have no background in French, for example. But I know in English we pronounce it as France. But in French, I think it's a lot more France. Like, there's a kind of sound to it. And so the best way that Koreans were probably able to translate that was with pranks, pranks, pranks. That's my best educated guess. Yeah. Obviously, it's not always perfect, but they try. Yeah. Okay. One thing I wanted to go through again really quickly with this. So this character in particular, just because I think it's easy to get stuck on this. Does anyone know how to say the first word? Anyone know maybe what it spells? It is an English word, actually. Live. Live. Yep. And then you've got pranks again. How about the last two? How about the last two? I just want to give you guys some time, so I'll wait. I don't want to rush anyone. Dioli, doubly, right? Okay. So no matter how we Romanize it, it's okay. But what I kind of want to establish here is when you see this in front of a vowel, right? So in front of a vowel, so on the left or the top, it's almost always, there might be some exceptions to this that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. It's almost always pronounced like da, kind of like the rolling, like the R kind of sound. So daib, prangs, di, except when you have this appear at the bottom, right? In like say ol, you hear it. It doesn't become like or it doesn't become like odd, because dioli, right? It becomes ol. You can hear the L a lot clearer, right? Dioli, doubly. There's another example. Of course, that L sound carries over to this as well. So pulli, doubly, dioli, right? But when this character is right next to, like, is indicating that there's a vowel sound that goes with that, like prangs, daib, it's d, like the rolling of the R. But then here it's an L. And yeah, really and lovely. Exactly, fully. Good one. Right? There are, of course, other examples where that is the last character. Say, or for anyone that drinks alcohol, highball. If anyone's familiar with highballs, I don't drink, But if anyone's familiar with highballs, here it's not highball, it's highball. And then a very common word is pull. Pull is fire. pul, right? So when it appears under a vowel, so under or to the right, you'll hear it a lot as u, like a much stronger L sound. Whereas if it's appearing along with a vowel, like at the front or the start of it or above it, it's like d. So again, daibu, 프랑스, 리얼리, 러블리, 하이볼, 불. Does that kind of make sense? Does that still make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. I was a little self-conscious of it just as I was moving on because I just didn't want anyone to kind of get confused about that. And of course as well, 물. Yep, water. 물. Okay, it is... This is going to be the best way, I think, to do this. Just a quick review. What sound does this make? Say it to yourself out loud as the card's being flashed. What sound does this make? Yep. K. 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 Now, what sound do you think this is going to make? Notice how they're exactly the same character, but they're doubled up. In caps. This is like g, 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 right? So a word, I just want to see if you guys can hear the difference. One of these words means to be close, right? For something to be like physically close to you, like within a close distance. See if you can hear the difference with these pronunciations. Only one of them is correct, right? The top one is 가까워, 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 가까워. The bottom one is 가까워, 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 가까워. Right? Top, 가까워. Bottom, 가까워, 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 가까워. Bottom is correct. Yep. Now, the reason is of course this still makes the k, so 가, 가요, 가자, 가, 가, 워, 가, 가. You know, notice how I'm putting kind of like more oomph behind it? 가까워, 가, 가, 가. It kind of like explodes a bit. You of course don't have to like yell it. You don't have to be like 가까워, like you don't have to say it like that, but there's just more it's more plosive. There's more force behind it. Ga, ga. Another that you'll hear maybe in dramas is 가자, 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 가자. Not 가자, it's 가자, 가자. Right? 가자 means fuck off, like get away from me, piss off, that kind of vibe. Does the double consonant kind of make sense? At least that explanation of it. It's almost like it's an elongated. It's more emphasized, the sound. So normally you'd have ka, ka. Yeah, like an emphasis. You'd have like ka, but then ka, ka. It's like sharper. It's stronger. It's more audible, if that makes sense. Okay, another one. You remember this one? What's this one? D, right? Like a soft D. T. Yeah, kind of like a T. D. T. T. So what do we think this one's going to be like? D. Yeah. D. 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 Yeah. Strawberry. 딸기. 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 Not 딸기. Not 딸기. 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 Again, I'll write them down. There's a couple actually. A couple of examples I can give. Strawberry is a good one, Schmappy. You guys tell me if you can hear the difference. Also, okay, let me just cover these. We need a whiteboard for sure. Fuck. Does not want to cooperate, man. Goodness. Okay. So top one. 딸기. 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 Bottom one. 딸기. 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 You can hear the difference, right? It's subtle. But can we hear the difference? 딸기. 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 Make sense? Yep. Alright, cool. One other example. 딸기, so again, 딸기 means strawberry. 따라와. 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 Can we hear the difference? Yeah, basically it just becomes a lot more audible, right? 따라와. 따라와. Anyone know what 따라와 means? Maybe you've heard it in lyrics a lot. 날 따라와. 날 따라와. 날 따라와. 가자. 날 따라와. 날 따라와. What might 따라와 mean? 가자. 가자 is let's go. 가자. 따라와. 따라와. I'm not fanning myself, but 따라와. Follow me. I'm going, follow me. Yeah. 따라와. Close. I mean, my example probably wasn't very good. But, there you go. We just learned follow me. But you'll hear that a lot in dramas as well too. Okay. Two more words. I mean, both of these are actually words, even though This is just an example. Hopefully we can see that well. We've got 달 and 달. 달 and 달. 달, 달. 달, 달. Top one means moon. So 달. 달이 너무 예뻐. 오늘 밤 달은 너무 예쁘다. 달. Or 보름달, full moon. But 딸 means daughter. 아, 우리 딸이 참 예쁘네. 우리 딸이 참 예쁘네. 아, 우리 딸 왔어? 우리 딸 is daughter. Cool. So the double consonants kind of making sense so far. Are we able to hear the difference? Are they making sense? Is anyone practicing along as well too, or what are we doing out there? Oui, excellent. All right. We remember this one? What sound does this make? Making all sorts of noises. Some of them are correct. J, right? Like a soft J. J, j, 자요, 자자, 잘자, right? J. This one is then going to be a lot harder. J, j. Has anyone ever eaten or heard of 짜장면? 짜장면. 짜장면. Heard of it? How do you think? I mean, this might be a bit hard because we haven't got many, word constructing abilities and stuff yet. How do you think this would be pronounced? This could also be a trick question for some of you guys, so I'm just curious to see if you can hear the difference. It's okay if you can't, you will get there in time. 짜장면, 짜장면, this is a tongue twister. 짜장면, 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 짜장면. I'm tongue twisting myself, fuck. 짜장면. Top. 짜장면. Bottom. Sorry, second. 짜장면. Third. Or 짜장면. 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 Little difficult. Difficult word. You know, a difficult word because the tongue follows like right after. But, you know, this is kind of the extent. Top. It is the top, indeed. Whether it was written initially or not, you know, in the chat, the top is indeed it. 짜장면. Right? So you've got 짜, 짜. Oh, 너무 짜. 짜. Right? 짜 is like when something is like overwhelming, like too salty. Oh, 너무 짜. Right? Okay. We have only. I'll save this one for last. We have only 2 left, y'all. 2 double consonants left, and then we're done. Then you've learned the entirety of the Korean alphabet. And, of course, everything that comes with it. All right. Remember this sound, right? Yep. So, not b, but p, p, p. Yep, soft p, soft b. And so this one, following the same logic, is going to be b, b. But it's like plosive. You got to kind of make the b explode a bit. B, oppa, oppa, appa, appa. Right? So who knows what oppa means? Yeah, you gotta pop. You gotta pop your mic with this one. Oppa. Appa. Speaking of, my mic was coming off. So oppa, oppa, oppan Gangnam Style, right? For anyone who knows Gangnam, there's no one who doesn't know Gangnam Style at this point. Oppa is for when female identifying people are talking about their older brother. So remember, people who identify as male, older brother is hyung. For people who identify as female, older brother is oppa. Appa, appa is dad. Dad. What you would call your own dad. Appa. Appa 왔어? Appa. Pa. And then earlier, we had another word which was papa. 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 난 너무 바빠. 난 시간이 없어. 너무 바빠. 너무 바빠. 바빠 means busy. 저리 가. 난 바빠. I'm busy. Go away. I'm busy. Okay? So this is far more plosive. And our good friend who wants to sound like different things on different days. Yeah, this is good fun. Right. So here we've just got the double s, sh, and t, right? So I think this explanation is going to work a little bit better with examples. So let me give some examples. Now remember that this sound can either be s, like s, it can be sh, so sh, and sometimes it can be more like a t kind of sound. I'll give you 3 examples. Okay. Cool. Hopefully this won't confuse, but eventually, people can come back to this one if they want. Alrighty. Has anyone ever heard people say 제다이 씨, 로키 씨, 슈마피 씨, 풀리 씨, 젠 씨, 씨, 씨. So not She. Not she. 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 She is a polite marker. So a polite way of saying someone's name or calling out to them. You know? She. It's the polite way of calling someone. So my name is Loki. 아, 로키 씨 왔어요? 로키 씨는 제 친구입니다. Loki is my friend, you know? She, I might add as well, is used when you're relatively, how can I put this? It's not as if you're unfamiliar with that person, but it denotes distance. One thing that you'll learn about Korean and the Korean language is it's very hierarchical, and a lot of it is about emotional distance that you have with people. Relationships are very specifically defined. Of course, you don't need to know all of this right now, but this is just something to keep in mind. So she is a polite way of referring to someone. So in business situations, you can see people refer to each other like co-workers as 수빈 씨, 채원 씨, 형원 씨, stuff like that. You'll see them refer to each other respectfully with she. Because she, in a professional setting, denotes that there is a barrier of respect. You know, you can't talk with those people like they're your buddies and, you know, your childhood friend and stuff like that. They're not your bestie. Even if they are your bestie, you're in that setting, so there's a personal distance that kind of needs to be maintained, right? She. There's another kind of step up, which is 님. So I could say 로키님, 제다이님, 조시님. That's even more respectful. 님 is one way to think of it is it's just more respectful, right? Sh, sh. It's like a SSH. Think about it like sh, sh, like shush, sh. It's like that. Shh. She. Right? So yeah, there's a distance. You would use she if you wanted to be polite, but if you had become friends with that person and you were talking with that person, eventually you would figure out your relationship with them and you'd talk differently. So you wouldn't refer to them and say like let's say I had made a friend with someone at university. They were the same age as me. And we had been friends for like a year. I'm not going to go up to them and call them like, 샘 씨, 왔어요? 너무 보고 싶었어요. I'm not going to say like, Sam 씨. Because I've known Sam for a year now. Sam is also the same age as me. We're good friends, like really good friends. In fact, if anything, I'm going to drop honorifics altogether, probably. I'm going to just be like, Sam 왔나? If you speak Saturday. 왔어? Yeah, you know, like, this is my friend, 쌤이다. You know, it's. What if you're on TV? TV is different. Situation, context, all of this is different, right? That type of stuff you learn through practice, exposure to those situations, and all of that type of stuff. But just as a small tangent, there's that. Could you do that as a joke to be like, we haven't seen each other in a while, so I'm going to pretend like we're not close? Sure. I'm sure people would. For sure. Like you can kind of act like a stranger, like, hello, stranger. Where have you been? Stuff like that. I'm sure people do that. Maybe some people might personally do it because, I mean, if you have the idea, then I'm sure other people have had the idea too. But these things denote distance, right? So she. I don't want to stray too far from it, but just a quick little lesson. She. Nim is higher than that. You can also address. Sometimes you won't even address people by positions, like your boss. You will not address your boss by by their name, and she. That's illegal. illegal. You address them by their title, So Korean is a very hierarchical language. In English, we don't really have that. Yeah, 대표님. Notice 님 at the end of it as well too, to elevate the title in terms of respect as well. Because 대표 is like your boss or CEO and stuff like that. But 님 also denotes, this person is respected. So if we all meet up, there's 록님 and 조시씨. Yeah, sure. If anything, actually, if we were in Korea, I would be 선생님, not 선생씨. 선생 is teacher, but I would be 선생님 because teachers in Korea, they're seen as, even in Asian cultures in general and many cultures around the world, being a teacher or an educator is a position of respect. You know what I mean? Doctors as well too. Same stuff, right? So title is important. So that is 시. If we move down, 사요. 사요. Cheap. So you can see already how they're making different sounds, but they're, instead of like 사요, it's 사요. 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 Not 시, but 시. Not 사요, but 사요. You'll see this a lot as well too. 있어요. 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 This means to have or to be. You'll see it in it means a lot of different things, but to have something. 넌 매력이 있어요. You have skill. 넌 매력이 있어요. 난 펜이 있어요. I have a pen. 난 폰이 있어요. 난 물병이 있어요. You see that a lot. But notice how again it's s, 있어요. Not 있어요, but 있어요. When this double consonant appears on the bottom, most times, especially in this situation, if a vowel comes afterwards, it is s, 있어요. See how this sound here kind of carries over to this as well? Let me try not to confuse you guys, but confuse you guys in the process a bit. In the vowels stream, and Jedi was touching on this earlier, even just with something that he wrote. In the vowels stream, I said that written Korean and spoken Korean, two very different things. And this proves why. This shows why. When you write, you will write like the top. So 있어요. But when you pronounce it, it's pronounced pretty much like this. 있어요. 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 They're the same thing, no different. But the correct writing is this one. Right? Correct writing is this one. Because this sound here carries over to this vowel. So pretty much it disappears from under here and it goes over here when you pronounce it. 있어요. 있어요. Right? There are times though, correct. Oh, not necessarily syllable blocks. It's just more written Korean and spoken Korean are just different. I can go through that in like another video. But basically, whenever a vowel comes after that double consonant, it's s, s, specifically, always. S. S. But there is one situation where it's not. And this is where we get the stuff that's a little confusing. 있다, 있는. So, 있다. You can kind of hear the T coming out, right? 있다, 있는, 있다, 있는. All right. Where'd my marker go? That's why I saved this one to last, man. Because this one, when I first started Korean, this pissed me off. I was like, bro, this is, why are we doing this? So, 있다. When you look at the space between this sound, the S, right? S, is, saying isda or is는, isda, is는, it doesn't work, right? In Korean, it's unnatural. It doesn't flow. It might sound to you like, oh yeah, conceptually that works. No, in Korean, it does not flow, right? So, this little double S, it kind of sounds a little closer to the D. 있다, 있다. But because there's a double S here, it's kind of like you pause a little bit. 있다, 있는. Because this is the N sound, 있는, 있는, 있다, 있다, 있는. These are the only times, at least that we need to know of now at this point, these are the only times when you will have to pronounce this differently as 있다 or 있는, right? This is written Korean mostly, but there are different like all of these mean the same thing. So 있어요, 있다, 있는, they essentially are all formed from the same thing. For anyone that's curious, I'll explain. If you just want to clock out for the moment, that's okay, don't worry. This is not something that you absolutely need to know. It's just to clarify because people could probably come back to this later and then be like, oh, okay, I get that now. This is grammar and verb conjugation now, so changing verbs, right? In English, for example, we have verbs like to go somewhere, right? So in English, we have to go, we have go, we have going, we have went, we have was going, etc., etc., right? Are we still following along? Yep, cool. All right. So with 있어요, let's come up with a sentence. Okay. Let me come up with three different sentences, sorry. Okay. All right. Three very different examples, but try and follow along with me. All right. The first sentence says, 나는 가방이 있어요. 가방 is bag. 나 means me. 나는, I, bag, 있어요, have, right? So you pronounce this 나는 가방이 있어요. Why is this pronounced as S? again, by the way? Why is this pronounced as s? Do we remember the rule that I was talking about just before? Facts. And also because a vowel comes right after it. Right? A vowel comes right after it. So 있어요. 있어요. Now here, this sentence flips things a little bit. It flips kind of the perspective. I can say 나는 가방이 있어요. What's good, Latte? Welcome, bro. This one says 나는 가방이 있는 남자. 있는 here is doing something very important, right? 있는 still means to have. What this is saying, so 남자 is man, right? Man. What this is saying is I am a man who has a bag. So instead of just saying I have a bag, I'm saying I am a man who has a bag. Or I am a police officer that is running. For example, you know, I forget exactly what these things are called, like these types of sentences, but it's a very special type of clause that we use a lot in Korean, right? 나는 가방이 있는 남자. So here you'll see sentences like this where it can't be 나는 가방이 있는 남자, because see, that doesn't really sound right, does it? Tell me, does it? Does this sound like it flows? Which one flows more? 나는 가방이 있는 남자. 나는 가방이 있는 남자. Or 나는 가방이 있는 남자. 나는 가방이 있는 남자. 나는 가방이 있는 남자. 가방이 있는 남자. 가방이 있는 남자. Yeah, the S sounds awkward, right? The N flows. If I wanted to say 나는 가방이 있는 여자, 여자 is woman. I'm a woman who has a bag. 나는 가방이 있는 고양이. I'm a cat that has a bag. You know? 나는 가방이 있는 고양이. It doesn't make sense. It sounds odd, at least in Korean, you know? So that's why. And then here at the bottom, this is another form. So this basically modifies nouns. Cat's out of the bag. This modifies nouns. 있는 is a way of being able to say, oh, so this thing is all of this, right? Hope I explained that correctly. I might not have, but that's okay. If I say 그 남자가 가방이 있다. 그 남자가 가방이 있다. This is the same thing. I'm saying that man has a bag. Because 있다 is the dictionary form, like the most basic way of saying something. As we learnt with the vowels, 있어요. 있어요 is polite. 나는 가방이 있어요. I'm politely saying that. Or 그는 가방이 있어요. That's a polite speech. If I say 그 남자가 가방이 있다, then it's very it's not brash or harsh, but it's like you're speaking very like directly. You know? In terms of verb conjugation as well, in English, this is most equivalent to like to have. You know? To have. 있다. And then you've got things like 있어. So this is like level 1, level 2, level 3. These are just basic. Then you got 있어요. And then you know, all of these mean have. So there's different levels to it, right? You've got itta, to have. Two, isso. But isso is kind of like informal. So if this is informal, then one is like super informal. There's only one, there's an exception to that, but itta is like the most basic way of saying to have. Isso, saying 난 가방이 있어. That's informal, like that's casual speech. 있어요 is polite, you know? 있습니다. I'm sure we've all heard 입니다, 씁니다 around before. 있습니다. This is like the highest level of formality. You know? When would you use this? If you were speaking to your boss, if you were speaking to the president of Korea, if you were speaking to people that are in far higher positions than you, or if you were speaking to people who are older than you, or people who have far more experience than you, or if you were meeting someone for the first time and you just wanted to be extra polite, right? So all of this to say, there are reasons that this is spelt and said differently, right? 있어요, 있는, 있다. This also particularly, when you see like 있다 and stuff, you'll see that written a lot in novels. Novels, writing, like very official correspondence, very official scenarios. You know, written Korean, like Korean that you read in the newspaper, does not sound like Korean that you hear spoken colloquially or even just spoken. It's a completely different kind of language. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay? How do we go with that? Does this make a bit of sense now? Is anyone confused or anyone like, oh, bro, that I'm lost? It's okay if so. We can always go back and rewatch the video when need be. You know? The seed had been planted. I'll let you know if it grows or not. Bet. All right. One last thing. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but I have a feeling that some people might be like, Locke, what are we talking about when we're talking about Korean being broken up into blocks and all of this type of stuff? Like, what does this mean? I'll demonstrate in English. I appreciate that not everyone is an English speaker, but I would assume that if you're watching this video, then you understand English to some degree. And I'll show you kind of the English alphabet and how this differs, and to kind of showcase how Korean makes sense. So in English, you've got some tall letters and you've got some short letters, right? So, sure, let me write this. Let me write the word baby. So notice the word baby in English. You've got a tall letter, and then a short letter, and then a tall letter, and then another tall letter, but it kind of goes below the line. You know, we wouldn't write baby. I mean, some people do, but it honestly, I mean, it's not correct anyway when you learn in school. Some people would write baby like that, so that they're all, you know, all of them are like perfectly contained within the lines. But you don't write it like that. Baby's actually written like this. In Korean, the same kind of concept with the blocks applies. It's a stylistic choice, of course, right? So in Korean, how many characters can you have per block? What is the maximum amount of characters that you can have per block? 2 to 4. Exactly, and 4 is the max, right? There's a bit of a reason for that. And I'll show you. It looks I think, easy on the eyes, and it's easy to read that way because you read left to right, top to bottom. So Is there a different pen? No, you know what? I'm just going to have to thug it out. Hang on. Give me a sec. Okay. Okay. This says 나는 아이스크림을 좋아해. This says I like ice cream. Notice though how Korean doesn't have tall letters, doesn't have short letters, doesn't have some letters that go below the line. It's all separated into these syllables, blocks. 나는 아이스크림을 좋아해. Pretty easy to kind of like see, right? Yeah? 나는 아이스크림을 좋아해. Is this kind of making sense? So it looks different to the example that I showed in English and stuff like that. And we can see all the little blocks. Is that coming up okay? Like the different boxes? Cool. So there's a few possible kind of like combinations, right? So within these blocks, you can have stuff like this. This looks like math. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. This is not math, but hey, bear with me. Hang on a sec. Just making sure I haven't missed any. Cool. Right. So there's these combinations that you can see at the bottom, right? So you can have 2, 2, 3, or 4. 2, 2, 3, or 4. Think about each like block of syllables this way. 2, 2, 3, or 4. So for example, you can have a, u, sure. It will be ma, for sure. So you can have a, u, an, and anj, like anja, right? An. So you kind of see how these are working out, right? Do you think we can have this one? Like, does this one make sense? Again, it might be a trick question, so just answer honestly with what you feel. If we're saying no, why might that be? Josh got it. Exactly. Because Korean is top to bottom, left to right. Exactly. Right? Left to right, top to bottom, left to right. You always start up here and move down. Or if there's nothing up here to the side, you just go straight down. We getting that? Does that kind of make sense? There are many a different kind of ways that we can talk about this, but I mean, you'll pick this all up through practice. And I think downloading a Korean keyboard for your phone, you will quickly be able to figure out what it won't let you put and what it will let you put. All right, so get a Korean keyboard. I urge you. App Store, Play Store, whichever. Super easy, right? Say, for example, I wanted to write an. That doesn't look right, right? As far as I know, Android just lets you enable it in the settings. Right. Does eat not count? It's a bit like, here's where we start getting a little hairy. So when I'm saying characters in certain things, right? We're talking about, like, I'm just using this to illustrate the boxes and how certain things stack and how we can, like, read them from top to bottom, left to right, right? The vowels, in and of themselves, just always sit in their own box, right? So, like, we or we. You don't need to, like, count the boxes or, like, kind of do the maths for these things. You know what I mean? But it's like, if someone wants to know, oh, like, how do I read this, or what's happening? Like, say, 앉아요, which means to sit, then it's important to at least kind of know how you got to stack the stuff. Using a keyboard, again, will, like, show you and tell you what you can and can't do anyway. But, you know, like, if you wanted to say, like, let's say, 의사 or 의자 or something like that, you don't really need to, like, I guess, put a vowel in a box and, like, separate it or something, so to speak. If that kind of makes sense. I think, Jedi, with your logic, though, what you're getting at is indeed a pretty, how can I put this? It works. Like, I get what you're saying. Because if we wanted to say, like, I get that if you're wanting to construct it like that, well, I get, like, if you're wanting to construct it like that or think of it like that, then sure. I mean, it's still three places, like three spaces within that box. Like, that still makes sense as well too. So I think, you know, if you want to, like, break it down even further, that works. But I guess in the sense of like being able to see that you can have a maximum of 4, but you have to have at least a consonant and 1 vowel at least, is the most important thing and the most important reason why I'd bring this up. I really just want to say, for anyone who's still listening, all of this is really honestly just something that you will learn along the way and that you'll pick up. Yeah, it's like spelling. That's really all this is. It's basically just spelling and how to create a word. When you spell a word in English, you need to learn which letters come before what, right? I before E, except after C, except, for a million other things that happen to break those rules and whatnot. This is just kind of like a guide for anyone who's like, what the hell? Why am I writing this, or how do I do this? Because say some people might try and write 안녕하세요 instead as something like this. Because like say English goes just left to right. It's just linear. The way you stack letters is just by putting them next to each other, and then a space differentiates one word from another. You can't write 안녕하세요 like that. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't really work. So one way that I was taught especially to think about it is like that there's little boxes. There's like syllabic blocks. So where you can then go, all right, an is its own thing. Nyong is its own thing. Ha is its own thing. Se is its own thing. Yo is its own thing. And then it's obviously written like that. Now we all know what syllables are, right? So you just break each word down into a syllable, into syllables, and that's the best way to figure out how to write that. So, subin. I could say subin. Oh, subin. Subin. There's 2 syllables there. One way to be able to count syllables, if no one knows, is anytime your chin drops, that's a syllable. Subin. Subin. So my chin dropped 2 times there. 조시, 조시. 안녕하세요. 5 syllables. So it's written in 5 syllables, But you got to know kind of like which way they go, so that instead you're not writing nyong as like nyong. You know what I mean? Does that kind of make sense? So the order is important in terms of the way that you do it. Hope that makes sense. Can we discuss why the hell hello has to be so long? Well, actually, 안녕하세요 is literally like to be healthy. There's a couple of different reasons as to why this and that exist and whatnot. But 안녕하다 means to be well, in a way. It's one way of being able to translate it. To be well, right? 안녕하세요. And of course, for those of you guys that know Korean history, Korea struggled a lot with famine throughout its history. And so, one of the ways of saying hello was 밥 먹었어요? 밥 먹었어요? They would literally ask, have you eaten? And 안녕하세요 is the same kind of thing, the same kind of sentiment. You're asking if someone is well. Whereas English is just, hi. Like we just, hi, hello, stuff like that. So, yeah. But that's that, man. That is consonants in Korean. So you have now learnt all Hangeul, right? So practice, do everything that you need to do, of course, to get it down. Of course, I might not necessarily be the best teacher. I truthfully, there you go. This is perfect reason, right? My missteps. I had no plan for this. I'm just winging it. So everything I'm giving to you, I'm giving just off the top of my head. Some of my explanations might not necessarily be the best. There's a ton of resources out there if ever you need them. But what I want to say mostly, just to anyone who's embarking on studying Korean or whatever, is please be kind to yourself. And when I say be kind, I mean, please understand that taking a language, like, you know, stepping into a new language takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of concerted effort and practice. And do not compare yourself to other people. It is the most pointless and most futile exercise ever. You know, you can look at other people and how they speak and go, oh, I hope I can get to that one day. Trust me, all you need to do is practice and you will. It's as simple as that. There's no reason why you can't. There's no, oh, I'm too old to learn a language. Oh, like, I'm too dumb to learn a language. Maybe some people might be more predisposed to absorbing languages than others, whether that be due to age. Because, you know, there's many different factors that affect how individuals learn and stuff like that. But it's not impossible. It's not, you know, all that difficult for you to be able to say basic stuff and to do the alphabet and whatnot. But all I want to say is just don't fall into the trap of comparing yourself to other people. For anyone who's like taking Korean really seriously, don't compare yourself to native speakers. I used to do that all the time, and I used to be very afraid that native speakers were going to judge me. They don't. And if they do, they're assholes. You know, it's as simple as that. If someone was learning your native language and you heard someone else be like, oh my God, can't even speak English, you'd think that person's a fucking asshole. You'd be like, oh, okay. So if someone ever did judge you or whatever, so what? You're trying, and that is better than most people do. All right? There are a ton of different resources for you to be able to access Korean language. You do not need to live in Korea, right? You don't need to go to Korea in order to be able to learn Korean. There are multiple different types of contents on YouTube. For anyone who's interested, whether you happen to be into Korean music or not, I would recommend listening to Korean music. That is one really good way to immerse yourself. You don't have to be a K-pop fan. There are tons of different things you can listen to, whether it be hip-hop, whether it be trot, whether it be, you know, just Korean artists that happen to be more indie or more R&B focused or whatever. There's K-pop, right? That's very mainstream. There's a lot of that. There are K-dramas as well, which you can find on Netflix, Korean movies. There are manga and manhwa, so graphic novels and comics that you can find available on the platform Webtoon. There are tons of different ways for you to be able to immerse yourself. The one thing that I would just really encourage you to do is have fun with it. Be explorative and be creative with how you want to study stuff as well. I can go through in a different video maybe one day, if you guys would like that, on how I learned Korean and how I personally got here to where I'm at. I've been speaking it for 9 years. You know, my partner is Korean anyway, because we met, you know, about, when was that? 8 years ago. So, you know, we've been on this for a while and stuff like that. It wasn't because of that or anything, but, you know, that's just where I was in my life and we found each other. Does it help? We don't really speak Korean. We live here in Australia and we don't really speak Korean. We could, but we don't. So if anyone's ever curious about what resources I use and how I studied and what I do and stuff like that, then let me know down in the comments. But love and appreciate you guys, man. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.